The knock came in the dead of night, a sound so sharp and unexpected that it tore through the silence like a blade. I had been sitting by the hearth, staring into the dying embers, lost in thoughts I could never quite escape. The rain outside was relentless, drumming against the windows and the thatched roof, and the wind howled as though it carried voices from another world. When the knock came again, louder this time, I hesitated. No one in Black Hollow ventured out after dark, not with the fog so thick and the forest so close. But something about the urgency of the knocking compelled me to rise, my heart pounding as I approached the door. I opened it to find a woman standing there, drenched and shivering, her face pale as the moon hidden behind the storm clouds. She clutched a lantern in her hands, its light casting an eerie green glow that seemed to pulse faintly, as though alive. "Please," she gasped, her voice trembling. "I need your help. My brother, he's gone." Her eyes were wide, filled with a desperation that struck a chord deep within me. I stepped aside, allowing her to enter, though every instinct warned me to shut the door and bar it fast. She stumbled inside, her wet clothes dripping onto the floor, and I noticed how out of place she seemed. Her dress was old-fashioned, the fabric heavy and dark, and her hands, when she brushed past me, were icy cold. I led her to the fire, offering her a blanket and a cup of tea, though she seemed barely aware of her surroundings. Her name, she said, was Eliza, and she had come to Black Hollow in search of her brother, who had vanished near the old manor on the outskirts of the village. As she spoke, I couldn't help but notice the strangeness of her presence. The lantern she carried emitted a light that flickered unnaturally, casting shadows that seemed to move on their own. Outside, the dogs of the village began to bark in unison, their cries rising and falling like a mournful chorus. Eliza's story was vague, filled with gaps and inconsistencies, but there was something in her eyes, a raw, unspoken pain that made me want to believe her. The next morning, I awoke to find Eliza gone, the lantern left behind on the table. The village was abuzz with whispers. Livestock had gone missing in the night, and children spoke of seeing shadowy figures moving through the fog. I tried to dismiss it as superstition, but the unease in the air was palpable. When Eliza returned later that day, her demeanor had changed. She was more focused, more determined, and she asked for my help in searching the forest near the manor. I agreed, though I couldn't explain why. Perhaps it was the memory of my own loss, the way her grief mirrored mine, that drew me to her. Or perhaps it was something darker, something I couldn't yet name. We set out as the sun began to sink, the forest looming before us, like a living thing. The trees were ancient, their gnarled branches twisting together to form a canopy so thick it blocked out the sky. The deeper we went, the more the atmosphere shifted. The air grew colder, and the sounds of the forest, the rustling of leaves, the distant calls of birds, faded into an oppressive silence. Eliza moved with purpose, her steps sure and steady, but I felt as though the forest itself was watching us, its unseen eyes tracking our every move. The whispers began soon after, faint and indistinct, carried on the wind like fragments of a forgotten song. As we pressed on, I began to experience strange sensations, flashes of memory that weren't my own. I saw a man's face, twisted in anger, and heard the sound of a woman weeping. The images were fleeting, but they left me shaken. Eliza seemed unaffected, her gaze fixed on some distant point, but I noticed how the shadows seemed to cling to her, as though drawn to her presence. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, and I found myself glancing over my shoulder, convinced that we were being followed. When I asked Eliza if she heard them, she simply shook her head, her expression unreadable. By the time we reached the edge of the forest, the sun had set, and the moon hung low in the sky, its light tinged with red. The manor loomed before us, its silhouette jagged and broken against the horizon. It was a place of legend in Black Hollow, a crumbling relic of a time long past, and no one dared to venture near it. Eliza moved toward it without hesitation, her lantern casting its unnatural glow on the overgrown path. I followed, though every step felt like a mistake. The air around the manor was heavy, suffused with a sense of dread that made it hard to breathe. Inside, the manor was a labyrinth of decaying grandeur. The walls were lined with portraits, their eyes seeming to follow us as we passed, and the floorboards creaked ominously beneath our feet. Eliza led me to a room at the end of a long hallway, its door hanging crookedly on its hinges. Inside we found a journal, its pages brittle with age. As I read, the story of the Blackwood family unfolded a tale of betrayal, loss, and a curse that had bound them to the land. Eliza watched me silently, her expression unreadable, but I could feel the weight of her gaze, heavy with expectation. The journal spoke of a woman named Eliza Blackwood, who had died tragically in the manor centuries ago. Betrayed by her brother and left to perish in the cold, her spirit had become bound to the land, her rage and sorrow giving rise to a curse that demanded the sacrifice of a grieving soul to break it. As I read, the pieces began to fall into place. Eliza's strange behavior, the whispers in the forest, the way the shadows seemed to cling to her. She was not who she claimed to be. She was something else entirely. I turned to confront her, but she was gone. The lantern left behind on the floor. The whispers returned, louder now, and the air grew colder. I could feel her presence, though I couldn't see her, and the weight of her grief pressed down on me like a physical force. The journal had mentioned a way to break the curse, but it required confronting the source of the pain, both hers and mine. I knew then that I had to face her, to confront the darkness that had drawn us together. The final night came with a blood-red lunar eclipse, the sky painted in hues of crimson and black. I returned to the manor, the journal clutched in my hands, my heart pounding with a mixture of fear and resolve. The whispers were deafening now, a cacophony of voices that seemed to come from all directions. I found Eliza in the chapel, her form flickering like a dying flame. She turned to me, her eyes hollow and filled with centuries of pain. "You understand loss," she said, her voice echoing with a sorrow that cut through me. "Join me, and your pain will end." I stood my ground, though every fiber of my being screamed to run. "I won't let my grief destroy me or anyone else," I said, my voice trembling but firm. I smashed the lantern, its green light flaring brightly before fading into darkness. The whispers ceased, and the chapel began to collapse around us. Eliza's form disintegrated into swirling mist, her final words carried on the wind. "Until we meet again." As dawn broke, I stood alone in the ruins, the weight of my grief still present, but no longer consuming me. The curse was broken, but the shadows of the past lingered, a reminder of the strength it takes to move forward. I returned to the village, where the townsfolk greeted me with relief. But as I walked away, a A faint green light flickered in the shadows of the forest, and a whisper carried on the wind. Until we meet again. The story of Eliza Blackwood and the curse of Black Hollow became a tale told in hushed tones, a reminder of the power of grief and the importance of confronting our darkest moments. For me, it was a journey of healing, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. But as I sit here now writing these words, I can't help but feel that the shadows are still watching, waiting for the moment when the pain returns. And perhaps, one day, they will. The days that followed were a blur. The villagers, though relieved, were wary of me, as though they sensed that I had brought something back from the forest. The children no longer played near the edge of the woods, and the adults spoke in hushed tones, their eyes darting towards the manor whenever its name was mentioned. I tried to return to my life, to the routines that had once brought me comfort. But everything felt different. The world seemed quieter, as though the whispers had left a void in their wake. I spent hours poring over the journal, searching for answers that never came. The pages were filled with cryptic passages and faded ink, their meaning just out of reach. I learned more about the Blackwood family, their rise to power, their fall from grace, and the tragedy that had bound Eliza to the land. But the more I read, the more I realized that the curse was not just about Eliza. It was about the pain we carry, the grief we bury, and the way it can consume us if we let it. The nights were the hardest. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, the sound of the wind outside, reminding me of the whispers in the forest. Sometimes, I thought I saw movement in the shadows, a flicker of green light that vanished when I turned to look. I told myself it was my imagination, but the fear was always there, lurking just beneath the surface. I began to dream of Eliza, her hollow eyes staring into mine, her voice echoing in my mind. "You understand loss," she would say over and over, until I woke in a cold sweat. I tried to distract myself with work, tending to the villagers as I had always done. But even there I felt a distance, as though I no longer belonged. They came to me with their ailments and their worries, but their eyes held a question they were too afraid to ask. I wanted to tell them the truth, to explain what had happened in the forest, but the words wouldn't come. How could I describe something I didn't fully understand myself? One evening, as I sat by the fire, I heard a sound that made my blood run cold. A faint knock at the door. I froze, my heart pounding, the memory of that first night flooding back. The knock came again, softer this time, and I forced myself to rise, my legs trembling beneath me. When I opened the door, there was no one there, only the empty street and the faint glow of the moon. But as I turned to go back inside, I saw it. A flicker of green light in the shadows, so faint I might have imagined it. The days grew shorter, the nights longer, and the village seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something to happen. I tried to convince myself that it was over, that the curse had been broken and Eliza was gone. But deep down I knew the truth. The shadows were still there, watching, waiting, and the whispers, though silent, still echoed in my mind. I began to spend more time in the forest, drawn to it in a way I couldn't explain. The trees seemed less menacing now, their twisted branches forming a canopy that felt almost protective. I would walk for hours, losing myself in the quiet, the memories of that night fading with each step. But no matter how far I went, I always felt her presence, a faint lingering ache that never quite went away. One day, as I wandered deeper into the forest, I came across a clearing I had never seen before. In the center stood a stone altar, its surface worn smooth by time. The air around it was still, the silence heavy with meaning. I approached cautiously, my heart pounding, and as I drew closer, I saw something etched into the stone. A symbol, faint but unmistakable. It was the same symbol that had been drawn in the journal, the one that marked the breaking of the curse. I knelt before the altar, my fingers tracing the symbol, and for the first time I felt a sense of peace. The weight of Eliza's grief, the pain that had bound her to the land, seemed to lift, if only for a moment. I closed my eyes, letting the stillness wash over me, and when I opened them again, the clearing was bathed in a soft golden light. The villagers noticed the change in me, though they couldn't quite put their finger on what it was. I smiled more, laughed more, and the distance that had grown between us began to fade. But the shadows were still there, a constant reminder of what had happened. I knew they would never truly leave, but I had learned to live with them, to carry them without letting them consume me. The years passed, and the story of Eliza Blackwood became a legend, a tale told to children to keep them from wandering too far into the forest. The manor crumbled further, its ruins swallowed by the trees, and the villagers moved on, their lives returning to normal. But I never forgot the whispers, the shadows, the flicker of green light. They stayed with me, a part of me that I could never fully escape. I often wonder what became of Eliza, if her spirit found peace, or if she still lingers in the shadows, waiting for the next grieving soul to cross her path. I like to think that she is at rest, that the curse was truly broken. But sometimes, on quiet nights when the wind carries the sound of distant whispers, I feel her presence, faint but unmistakable. And I know that the past is never truly gone, only waiting to be remembered. The forest remains a place of mystery, its secrets buried deep within the earth. I still walk its paths, though now it is with a sense of reverence rather than fear. The trees seem to welcome me, their branches forming a canopy that feels almost protective. And sometimes, when the light is just right, I catch a glimpse of something, a flicker of green, a shadow that moves just out of sight. But I no longer fear it. I have learned to live with the shadows, to carry them without letting them consume me. The villagers have come to accept me again, though they still speak of that night in hushed tones. They see me as a healer, a protector, someone who faced the darkness and emerged stronger. But I know the truth. I am no hero. I am simply a woman who learned to confront her grief, to find strength in the face of loss. And though the shadows still linger, I have learned to walk beside them, to carry them without letting them define me. The journal remains with me, its pages a reminder of the journey I took and the lessons I learned. I read it often, though the words no longer hold the same power over me. They are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is hope. And though the whispers still echo in my mind, they are no longer a source of fear. They are a part of me, a reminder of the strength it takes to move forward. As I sit here now, writing these words, I feel a sense of peace that I never thought possible. The shadows are still there, watching, waiting, but they no longer hold the same power over me. I have learned to live with them, to carry them without letting them consume me. And though the past will always be a part of me, it no longer defines me. I am Margaret Hale, a woman who faced the darkness and emerged stronger. And I will carry that strength with me always. The forest whispers still, its secrets buried deep within the earth. But I no longer fear them. I walk its paths with a sense of reverence, knowing that the shadows are a part of me. A reminder of the journey I took and the lessons I learned. And though the past will always linger, I have learned to carry it without letting it consume me. The whispers are a part of me, a reminder of the strength it takes to move forward. The villagers have moved on, their lives returning to normal. But I know that the past is never truly gone, only waiting to be remembered. The shadows still linger, a constant reminder of what happened. But I have learned to live with them, to carry them without letting them define me. And though the whispers still echo in my mind, they are no longer a source of fear. They are a part of me, a reminder of the strength it takes to move forward. The journal remains with me, its pages a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. I read it often, though the words no longer hold the same power over me. They are a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is hope. And though the shadows still linger, I have learned to walk beside them, to carry them without letting them consume me. The forest whispers still, its secrets buried deep within the earth. But I no longer fear them. I walk its paths with a sense of reverence, knowing that the shadows are a part of me. A reminder of the journey I took and the lessons I learned. And though the past will always linger, I have learned to carry it without letting it consume me. The whispers are a part of me, a reminder of the strength it takes to move forward. The villagers have moved on, their lives returning to normal. But I know that the past is never truly gone, only waiting to be remembered. The shadows still linger, a constant reminder of what happened. But I have learned to live with them, to carry them without letting them define me. And though the whispers still echo in my mind, they are no longer a source of fear. They are a part of me, a reminder of the strength it takes to move forward. The journal remains with me, its pages a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. I read it often, though the words no longer hold the same power over me. They are a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is hope. And though the shadows still linger, I have learned to walk beside them, to carry them without letting them consume me. The forest whispers still, its secrets buried deep within the earth. But I no longer fear them. I walk its paths with a sense of reverence, knowing that the shadows are a part of me. A reminder of the journey I took and the lessons I learned. And though the past will always linger, I have learned to carry it without letting it consume me. The whispers are a part of me, a reminder of the strength it takes to move forward. The villagers have moved on, their lives returning to normal. But I know that the past is never truly gone, only waiting to be remembered. The shadows still linger, a constant reminder of what happened. But I have learned to live with them, to carry them without letting them define me. And though the whispers still echo in my mind, they are no longer a source of fear. They are a part of me, a reminder of the strength it takes to move forward. The journal remains with me, its pages a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. I read it often, though the words no longer hold the same power over me. They are a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is hope. And though the shadows still linger, I have learned to walk beside them, to carry them without letting them consume me. The forest whispers still, its secrets buried deep within the earth. But I no longer fear them. I walk its paths with a sense of reverence, knowing that the shadows are a part of me. A reminder of the journey I took and the lessons I learned. And though the past will always linger, I have learned to carry it without letting it consume me. The whispers are a part of me, a reminder of the strength it takes to move forward.